Martin Keller was sanding the cabinet of a 1950s Zenith radio when his wife brought him breakfast. February cold seeped through the garage walls despite the space heater glowing orange in the corner. The table saw sat quiet. AM radio played the farm report, cattle futures down. Special French toast, Diane said, too bright. That cinnamon you like, eat it while it's hot. Something felt wrong, not the food, the way she stood there watching. 42 years as an electrician taught a man to trust his gut about wrong current. I'll eat it in a bit, he said. No, now, before it gets cold. He pocketed the plate when she left. At the co-op 2 hours later, he gave it to Beth, the young secretary who'd skipped breakfast again. She was convulsing in the bathroom 20 minutes later. Paramedics, stretcher, sirens. Martin sat in his truck in the hospital parking lot, hands shaking on the wheel, doing the math. Diane knew he always shared his food with Beth. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Martin sat with his elbows on his knees, watching the second hand on the wall clock. Beth's kids were in the corner with a neighbor lady, coloring books spread across 3 chairs. The little one, Emma, had crayon on her face. A doctor came out, mask pulled down around his neck. Family of Beth Ramsey. Martin stood. The neighbor stood. They looked at each other. I'm her employer, Martin said. She's got no family nearby. The doctor's eyes softened. Acute poisoning. We're running more tests, but her system's fighting something toxic. She's stable now, but... He glanced at the kids. It was close. Martin felt his chest go tight. The neighbor lady took the kids to get juice from the vending machine down the hall. Martin stood there alone, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, understanding settling in like winter cold. That breakfast was meant for him. He didn't go inside when he got home. Went straight to the shop, closed the door. The radio was still playing, tinny music from another era. He turned it off. The outdoor trash cans sat by the fence. Diane had put them out that morning for pickup. Martin pulled them back, opened the lids, kitchen garbage on top, coffee grounds, eggshells. He dug deeper, found receipts wadded up, 3 of them from different hardware stores. Rat poison, antifreeze, drain cleaner, all bought in cash, all within the last 6 months. His hands didn't shake yet. That would come later. Right now his electrician's brain was working the problem. Trace the circuit, find the break. He pulled out the disposable camera from his truck's glove box, the kind you got developed at the drugstore, and photographed each receipt. Put them back exactly where he'd found them, replaced the trash bags, rolled the cans back to the fence. In the shop, he examined the utility sink. Last week, he'd poured out the warm milk Diane brought him for sleeping. Some of the residue was still there, dried to a white-gray film. He touched it. Gritty, wrong texture. From the shed, he grabbed the pool test strips he used for the catfish pond out back before it dried up, ran one along the residue, then dipped it in water. The chemical levels went off the chart. Chlorine, alkaline, things that shouldn't be in milk. Martin sat on his work stool. The space heater ticked. Outside, a cardinal called from the bare oak tree. Normal sounds? Normal day? Except his wife had been trying to kill him, and he didn't know for how long. He heard her car in the driveway around 5. The screen door slammed. That particular squeak he'd been meaning to fix for 10 years. Her footsteps in the kitchen. Martin, you out there? He wiped his hands on his jeans, hid the receipts in the false bottom of his toolbox, old electrician trick. Every tradesman had one, and walked to the house. Diane had her coat off, makeup fresh even though she'd just been at the grocery store. She smiled when he came in. How's poor Beth? Food poisoning, they think. Relief flickered across her face. Quick as a bird. Oh, thank goodness, I was so worried. I made pot roast, your favorite. They ate at the kitchen table. Martin chewed slowly, watching her watch him. Every bite felt like a test. She'd made mashed potatoes, green beans, the roast cooked till it fell apart. Good food, normal food. But his tongue searched for grit, for anything off. You're quiet tonight, she said. Tired. You worked too hard at that co-op. You're retired, Martin. You should rest more. After dinner, she brought him warm milk. For sleeping. You've had such a shock with Beth. That's thoughtful. He held the mug, felt its warmth. Diane watched from the doorway, drying a dish towel between her hands. Drink it while it's hot. I will. She stood there a moment longer, then went upstairs. Martin heard the bathroom door close, water running for her shower. He carried the mug to the shop, poured it in the utility sink. Under the trouble light, the residue showed clear, gritty particles. Chemical sheen. Wrong color for just milk. He pulled out the test strips again, ran the same check. The readings came back worse than before. Martin sat down on his stool, the radio still silent, and let himself think about it. Really think. How many times had he drunk that milk? How many mornings had she made him special breakfast? How many times had she insisted he eat while it was hot? Take his medicine, drink it down. His hands started shaking then. Not age, not tiredness, fear. He touched his own chest, felt his heart beating, and wondered how much damage was already done. Martin stayed in bed the next morning. Not hard to fake. His body felt wrong anyway. Heavy limbs, stomach rolling. How much of that was real poisoning, how much was just knowing he couldn't say? Diane came in around 8, touched his forehead. Her hand felt cool. "You're warm," she said. "I'll get the thermometer." She returned with it, with pills in an old prescription bottle, your blood pressure medicine, and something for the fever. Martin kept his eyes half closed, watching her through his lashes. She shook out 2 pills, white, round. His blood pressure pills were oblong and pink, had been for 15 years. "Open up," and he put them on his tongue, took the water she offered, swallowed with his throat but held the pills in his cheek, the way Kyle used to do as a kid when he didn't want to take his vitamins. "That's good. You rest now." She patted his shoulder and left. He heard her go down the stairs, heels clicking on the hardwood. Then her voice, different, lighter, happy. "He's finally going down, baby." Martin went still. She was on speakerphone in the kitchen. Didn't realize he could hear through the old floor vents. A man's voice answered, smooth, younger than Martin. "About damn time. 2 more weeks, we can do this." 2 more weeks. Jamaica by April. Diane laughed, actual joy in it. The old fool won't know what hit him. "You're sure about the dosage?" "I watched him take it. Both pills. By Friday, he'll be in the hospital. By next week," she paused. "Derek, you're sure the policies will pay out?" "Baby, I wrote them myself. $890,000. We'll be set for life." Martin lay there, pills dissolving bitter on his tongue, listening to his wife plan his death with another man. The bedroom walls seemed closer, the ceiling lower. 43 years he'd been married to her. 20 years since his first wife died, and he'd thought Diane was a gift. Companionship in old age. Someone to share the quiet years. He'd been so goddamn stupid. The next afternoon, he drove to the hospital. Beth was sitting up in bed, pale but alive. An IV drip ran into her left arm. Her hospital gown had little blue flowers on it. "Mr. Martin," her voice came out scratchy. "They said you visited before, when it was bad. How you feeling?" "Like I got kicked by a horse." She tried to smile. "Doctor said it was arsenic. Arsenic poisoning, like in old movies." A social worker appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Middle-aged woman with tired eyes. "Mr. Keller, I need to speak with you. The police want a statement from whoever provided Ms. Ramsey's last meal." Martin felt the trap close. If he told them he'd given Beth the breakfast, he became either the victim or the suspect, depended on who they believed. And he was an old man making wild claims about his church-going wife. Beth was a struggling single mother who'd eaten poisoned food. Who would they believe? "I'll come down to the station," he said. Beth grabbed his wrist, her grip weak. "Mr. Martin, I can't lose my job. My kids, the daycare costs. I can't afford to miss work for police statements, and your job's safe. I promise you that." But her eyes were scared. She wouldn't testify. She couldn't. The coffee shop near the police station smelled like burned beans and cleaning solution. Detective Morris sat across from Martin in a booth with cracked vinyl seats. 40-something, overworked, skeptical from the jump. Martin explained it. The breakfast, his suspicions about Diane, the receipts, the milk residue. Morris took notes, his pen scratching. When Martin finished, the detective looked up. "So your wife of 20 years is trying to kill you?" "Yes. But you have no witnesses. You contaminated the potential evidence by handling it, and the victim won't testify because she's afraid of losing her job." Martin said nothing. Morris closed his notebook. "Miss Keller, I see a lot of elderly folks come in with concerns about their spouses. Memory issues, confusion, sometimes just regular marital disputes that get—" "I'm not confused. I didn't say you were." Morris's voice went gentle, which was worse than skepticism. "But these receipts could be for legitimate household use. The milk residue could be, hell, could be anything. Without proper chain of custody, without witnesses, without the victim's cooperation, so you won't help. I'll look into it, I promise you that. But Mr. Keller, I need you to be realistic about what we can prosecute." Martin stood, his knees cracked. Through the coffee shop window, he could see his truck in the parking lot. 1998, Ford F-150, older than most marriages, reliable because he maintained it. He caught his reflection in the glass, gaunt face, gray hair thin on top. Just an old man who might be losing his mind. His phone rang as he reached the truck. Sal's name on the caller ID. Finally, somebody who'd believe him. The county records office sat in the basement of the courthouse, fluorescent lights humming over rows of filing cabinets. Sal Novak looked up when Martin came down the stairs, his face tight with worry. "Boss." Sal still called him that, 30 years after his apprenticeship. "You look like hell." "Feel worse." Sal glanced at the door, then pulled Martin into the back room where the copy machine sat. He spread printouts across the desk, his dyslexic brain having worked through the numbers in the way only Sal could, slow and methodical, and absolutely certain when he found something wrong. Routine audit flagged your name. 4 life insurance policies, total payout $890,000. Martin felt the room tilt slightly. Sal pointed at the signatures on 3 of the applications. These aren't your handwriting. Look at the slant. Yours goes left, always has, from the way you hold a pen. These go right. And the pressure's wrong. Somebody practiced your signature, but didn't get the angle. Martin picked up the documents, saw his name, Martin J. Keller, written in handwriting that looked like his but wasn't, like seeing a stranger wear your face. Who's the agent? Sal pulled another file. Derek Vance, got an office downtown. I ran his business records. The IRS has been investigating him. Embezzlement suspected. Premium theft. He's dirty, boss. You could lose your pension for pulling these files. You taught me the trade when nobody else would hire a dyslexic kid who couldn't read blueprints, right? Sal's jaw set. You checked my work for 20 years. Now I'm checking yours. Martin gripped his shoulder. Couldn't find words. Sal turned the computer monitor. There's more. This is Derek Vance's insurance license photo. Martin looked at the screen. 45, maybe. Gym fit. Fake tan. Expensive suit. Teeth too white. And he recognized him. The church fundraiser. 18 months ago, Diane had volunteered to run the insurance information booth. Came home talking about Derek. Such a nice young man. So helpful with the raffle. Martin had been pleased she'd made a friend. He sat down heavily in Sal's desk chair. You know him? He met Diane at church 1.5 years ago. Martin's mind was working backward now, recontextualizing every memory. Diane's new perfume 3 months back. The expensive clothes she said were on sale. Thursday afternoons when she had errands and he was at the co-op. Always Thursdays. He pulled out his wallet calendar, the paper kind he still carried, marked every Thursday for the past 18 months. The pattern was there. Regular as clockwork. Sal, I need you to check something else. How long does the IRS investigation go back? Sal typed, clicked through screens. Looks like they started reviewing his files 6 months ago. Found irregularities going back 3 years. So he knows he's caught. He's on a timeline. Yeah, he'd need a big score before they shut him down. Sal looked at Martin. Boss, if he knows someone's looking into his files. Martin's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message on his old flip phone. Stop asking questions. Accidents happen. They both stared at it. You need to go to the police, Sal said. I did. Detective thinks I'm a paranoid old man. Then what? I need my son. The words came out harder than Martin intended. I need Kyle. Sal's expression changed. Everyone in town knew about the estrangement. 20 years since Kyle left after that fight. Martin saying Kyle was wasting his potential. Kyle saying his father didn't understand anything beyond wires and tools. You think he'll come? I don't know. Martin pulled out his address book, the leather worn soft. Found Kyle's number in Minneapolis. But I'm dying, Sal. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but Diane's not going to stop, and I can't do this alone. That night, Martin sat in his shop with all the lights off except the trouble light over his workbench. He'd laid out everything like a diagnostic job. Receipts, photos of the milk residue, Sal's copied files, his calendar with the Thursdays marked, the threatening text. If he were wiring a house, this is where he'd find the short, the place where the current went wrong. Diane and Derek met at the church fundraiser. She started poisoning him not long after. The receipts went back 16 months. 3 insurance policies forged in the past year. Derek's IRS trouble started 6 months ago. The poisoning had escalated in the past 8 weeks. More aggressive doses, more insistence that he eat and drink what she prepared. They were on a timeline. Derek needed the money before the IRS shut him down. Diane wanted out before Martin figured it out. He was the circuit breaker, and they were trying to flip him off. His phone sat on the workbench. He picked it up, put it down, picked it up again. Kyle wouldn't answer. Why would he? 20 years of silence, broken only by Christmas cards with generic signatures. Hope you're well. Dad. Nothing personal, nothing real. But Martin was out of options. He dialed. Listened to it ring, once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail would click on in 2 more rings, and Martin could leave a message, or hang up, or... Hello? Kyle's voice. Older than Martin remembered. Cautious. Kyle, it's your dad. Silence on the line. Long enough that Martin thought the call had dropped. Then, what's wrong? Not how are you? Not, it's been a while. Just straight to the heart of it. Because Martin wouldn't call unless something was bad wrong. And they both knew it. I need help. Martin's voice came out rough. I could use some help. What kind of help? Martin looked at his evidence spread across the workbench. At the receipts for poison. At the forged signatures in his name. At the text message threatening him. The kind where I need someone to believe me, someone who... He stopped, started again. Can you come home? Another pause. Martin heard traffic noise in the background. City sounds. Kyle's whole other life. I'll be there tomorrow. The line went dead. Martin sat there holding the phone, the shop cold around him, the space heater ticking, and felt something he hadn't felt since Beth collapsed in the co-op bathroom. Hope, fragile as a bird's egg. But there. He wasn't alone anymore. The rental car had Minnesota plates. Martin saw it pull into the driveway from the shop window. A silver sedan, nothing like the beat-up Chevy Kyle used to drive in high school. The engine cut. The door opened. Kyle stepped out holding a gas station bouquet. Carnations and daisies wrapped in cellophane. 40 years old now, gray at the temples. Wearing khakis and a button-down shirt like he'd come from an office. Which he probably had. Martin walked to the porch. They stood there 10 feet apart, 20 years between them. Hey, Pop. Thanks for coming. Kyle shifted the flowers. These are stupid. I didn't know what to... I just grabbed them at the gas station. They're fine. Another pause. The February wind cut across the yard, rattling the bare branches. You want to come inside? Martin asked. Diane home? At Bible study till 9. Kyle nodded, followed him to the shop. Safer there. Neutral ground. He looked around at the tools, the radio on the workbench, the old union posters on the walls. Nothing had changed since he'd left. Martin poured coffee from the thermos he kept on the space heater, passed Kyle a cup. Still take it black? Yeah. Kyle wrapped his hands around the mug. They sat on work stools, not talking at first. The radiator ticked. Outside, a dog barked somewhere down the street. Kyle looked at his father, really looked. Pop, you look terrible. Been a rough few weeks. What's going on? Martin didn't know how to start, how to explain it without sounding crazy, but Kyle was here, and that was something. That was more than Martin had expected. He opened the toolbox, pulled out the false bottom, laid everything on the workbench between them. I think Diane's trying to kill me. He watched Kyle's face, waited for the skepticism, the careful concern that meant Dad's losing it. But Kyle just listened. Martin walked him through it. Beth's poisoning, the receipts, the overheard phone call, Sal's insurance files, the forged signatures, the threatening text. When Martin finished, Kyle set down his coffee, picked up the insurance applications, studied them the way Martin had taught him to read electrical diagrams. Careful, methodical, looking for what didn't fit. These signatures are garbage? You can see where they practiced. The starting strokes are hesitant. The police won't do anything. Not enough evidence. Kyle looked at him. Pop, you taught me to check my work twice. Let's check yours. They spent the next hour going through 40 years of Martin's records, warranties filed by year, bank statements in accordion folders, union pension documents. Every piece of paper Martin had ever signed, organized the way an electrician organizes his tools. Everything in its place, everything findable. Kyle compared the insurance applications to Martin's real signatures on old job orders. These 3 are forgeries. This 4th one? He held it up. This one's real. You signed this. 10 years ago, before Derek Vance was in the picture. That was with my old agent. So they took a legitimate policy and built a fraud scheme around it. Kyle pulled out his laptop. What's this Derek guy's full name? Derek Vance. Has an office downtown. Kyle's fingers flew across the keyboard. He'd always been fast with technology. Even as a kid. That was part of what started the fight. Martin couldn't understand why someone would waste time on computers when they could learn a real trade. But watching Kyle work now, Martin saw the same precision he used tracing circuits, just different tools. Found him, CrossFit gym selfies, expensive car he probably leases, multiple addresses, looks like he moves every 2 years. That's a red flag. Kyle clicked through screens. And here, complaints from families, lost policies, elderly clients discovering coverage that never existed, lower payouts than expected. Sal said the IRS is investigating. Kyle pulled up public records. IRS audit started 6 months ago. If they find what I think they're going to find, he's looking at federal charges. He needs money. Fast. Martin watched his son work. When had Kyle gotten so competent, so sure of himself? The angry 20-year-old who'd slammed out of this house was gone, replaced by a man who knew things Martin didn't. Pop, I need to dig deeper. This might take a few hours. You got stronger coffee? In the house. But Diane, I'll be quiet. Kyle headed for this back door. Martin grabbed his arm. Why'd you come? Really? Kyle stopped. Looked at his father. Because you asked. Because in 40 years you've never asked me for anything. His voice cracked slightly. And because I've been a lousy son for 20 years, and I thought maybe this was my chance to. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. I'm glad you're here, Martin said. Kyle nodded, swallowed hard, and went inside. Martin sat alone in the shop, listening to his son move around the kitchen above him. The old floorboards creaked, the refrigerator hummed, normal house sounds. But nothing about this was normal anymore. Kyle found it around 3 in the morning. Martin had dozed off in his recliner, the TV playing low. He woke to Kyle shaking his shoulder, laptop open, face pale in the blue screen light. "Pop! You need to see this." Martin sat up, joints creaking. Kyle turned the laptop. A spreadsheet filled the screen. 6 names, 6 counties. Dollar amounts next to each. Timelines. Risk assessments. Derek's got terrible password security. Jamaica 2024. That's it. And he kept everything in a cloud folder labeled projects. Kyle scrolled down. "These are targets, Pop. 6 elderly men, 3 counties, all with policies through his agency." Martin leaned closer, saw his own name listed. MK. Riverside. 890K. Phase 3. Low risk. Isolated. Trusting. No family contact. The last part hit him like a fist. No family contact. That's what had made him vulnerable. That's what had almost gotten him killed. 2 of these men are already dead, Kyle said quietly. Natural causes, according to their death certificates. But now, he pulled up obituaries. Russell Harding, 71, died 8 months ago, heart attack. Had 3 insurance policies through Vance's agency, total $650,000. Family didn't know about 2 of them. And the other, Leonard Walsh, 68, single car accident 4 months back, $780,000 in policies. Widow got a payout, but when she tried to access the full amount, she found out one policy never existed. Vance had been pocketing her husband's premiums for 2 years. Martin felt sick. He's done this before. He's doing it right now. Look, Kyle pointed at another name. James Kowalski, 73, currently in a nursing home, coma, brain hemorrhage 3 weeks ago. Wife thinks it was a stroke, but Mrs. Kowalski across the street, that's her husband. They stared at each other. "He's killing them," Kyle said. "Derek's killing all of them. And Diane..." He stopped. "Diane picked the wrong partner. He's using her same as he's using everyone else." Martin stood, paced to the window. Dawn was still hours away. The street was dark except for one porch light 3 houses down. "We take this to the police. Show them the spreadsheet, they'll have to..." "I obtained it illegally." Weak password isn't a legal excuse for hacking. Any lawyer would get it thrown out. Kyle rubbed his face. "And even if they believed us, building a prosecutable case takes time. How long do you have?" Martin didn't answer, didn't know. The police station smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. Detective Morris looked at Kyle's organized presentation, printed spreadsheets, cross-referenced death certificates, insurance payout records, Martin's forged signatures. He looked. He listened. He even made phone calls. Then he closed the folder. "I believe something's happening here." "I do. But Mr. Keller, he nodded at Kyle. "These copies from the county records office are inadmissible. Mr. Novak could face charges for removing them. The spreadsheet was obtained without a warrant. The death certificates show natural causes. Reopening those cases requires cause and a hacked spreadsheet, isn't it? The milk residue, the antifreeze, all of it. You've contaminated the chain of custody by handling it." So we do nothing?" Kyle's voice went hard. "I didn't say that. I'll request a welfare check on Mr. Kowalski. I'll contact the IRS about expediting their investigation. I'll interview Ms. Ramsey again, see if she's willing to make a statement." "She won't," Martin said. "She's terrified. Single mother, 2 kids, can't afford to lose work for depositions and court dates." Morris spread his hands. "Then I'm sorry. I genuinely am. But I need evidence a prosecutor can use. Right now, what you've got is concerning, but not actionable." Outside, in the parking lot, Kyle kicked his rental car tire. "Unbelievable. We handed them everything, and they need to follow the law," Martin said. "Can't fault them for that. So what do we do?" Martin didn't have an answer. Sunday service, Martin sat in the back pew. Diane was up front with the ladies' auxiliary, tissue dabbing her eyes. Pastor Jim had pulled him aside before the service. "Martin, can we talk? In my office?" The office smelled like lemon furniture polish and old hymnals. Pastor Jim closed the door, his face gentle with concern. "Diane's worried about you. She says you've been making accusations. Confusion, memory lapses. She's talked to me about maybe finding you some help. I'm not confused. I know aging is difficult. My own father went through something similar. I'm not confused, and I'm not senile." Martin stood. "Someone's trying to kill me, and my own church won't believe me." Pastor Jim's face showed pity. Worse than skepticism, pity. Martin walked out. In the parking lot, Mrs. Henderson and 3 other church ladies stood with Diane, comforting her. They saw Martin, and their expressions went cold, protective of poor Diane, whose husband was losing his mind. He got in his truck and drove home alone. That night, Diane brought his medicine 3 times. Morning pills, afternoon pills, bedtime pills. Martin had been faking swallowing them, tucking them in his cheeks, spitting them out later. But she was watching closer now, suspicious. "Open your mouth," she said after the afternoon dose. "Let me see." He opened. She peered in, checking under his tongue. "Good. You need to take your medicine, Martin." The doctor said so. The doctor hadn't said anything. Martin didn't have a doctor's appointment in months. At dinner, she served his favorite: fried chicken, mashed potatoes. He ate slowly, watching her watch him. "Aren't you hungry?" "Just tired." "You should eat. Keep your strength up." He took another bite. His stomach lurched, not from poison, from fear. Every meal was a test now, every drink, every pill. That night, she brought warm milk again. Stood in the doorway until he drank half of it. He couldn't pretend anymore, couldn't palm it, couldn't fake it. He swallowed it, felt it burn down his throat. After she left, he stumbled to the shop, made it to the utility sink before his stomach emptied. He vomited until there was nothing left, then sat on the cold concrete floor, shaking, tasting bile and chemicals. Kyle found him there an hour later. "Jesus, Pop, you can't keep doing this." "Few more days. We need more evidence." You won't last a few more days." Kyle helped him up. "Look at you. You're gray. Your hands are shaking. I'm dying." Martin said it plainly. Fact, not drama. "She's winning. And if we don't do something soon, she's going to finish what she started." They went to the shop. Sal showed up 20 minutes later. Kyle had called him. The 3 of them sat around Martin's workbench while sleet hammered the roof. February storm, ice building on the windows. "Morris won't help without more evidence," Kyle said. "Beth won't testify. The community thinks Pop's senile. We're out of options." Sal looked at Martin. "Boss, you need to leave. Pack a bag, stay with me, get out of this house." "It's my house. I'm not running." "And then what?" Kyle's voice broke. "We just watch you die, because that's what's happening. Every day you stay here, every meal she gives you, every pill." Martin's hands were shaking badly now. Not age, not cold, real poisoning building in his system. He could feel it in his bones, his gut, his breath. "We force her hand," he said quietly. They both looked at him. "We make her think she's winning, make her think I'm finally going down." Martin met Kyle's eyes. "I play dead, and when she shows up to finish it, we record everything." That's it," Sal started. "Dangerous," Kyle finished. "That's insane." It's a sting operation," Martin said. Morris can't ignore a recorded confession. Outside, the sleet turned to freezing rain. The shop windows rattled. Kyle and Sal looked at each other, then back at Martin. "You're talking about making yourself bait," Kyle said. "I'm already bait. This way we control the trap." Kyle spent the next morning organizing Martin's evidence into a prosecutable case. Not hacked spreadsheets and illegal copies. Clean data, public records, cross-reference patterns that even a skeptical detective couldn't dismiss. They met Morris at a diner outside town. Tuesday morning, early enough that the breakfast crowd hadn't arrived. Just the waitress refilling coffee and the cook scraping the griddle. Kyle opened his laptop. "Derek Vance has been under IRS investigation for 6 months, public record." He turned the screen. Here's what they found: premium theft, fraudulent policies, embezzlement from elderly clients across 3 counties. Morris leaned forward. "These are obituaries." Kyle pulled up articles. 2 men, both with policies through Vance's agency, both dead within the past year, natural causes, officially. But their families discovered policies they didn't know about. Large payouts that went, he clicked to bank records, to accounts Vance controlled before being distributed to beneficiaries. How'd you get bank records?" "Freedom of Information Act requests. Cross-referenced with probate court filings. It's all legal." Kyle pulled up another file. Here's the pattern. Elderly men, isolated, modest pensions. Vance targets them, forges additional policies, and when they die, he skims the payouts before anyone notices. Morris was taking notes now, his skepticism cracking. "My father's not paranoid. He's not confused. He's Derek Vance's next target." Kyle showed him the forged signatures. "These 3 policies are fraudulent. Compare them to my father's real signature. The slant's wrong, the pressure's wrong. Vance has done this before." Martin sat quietly, letting his son handle it, watching this man, he barely knew anymore, argue for his life, with the precision Martin had once used tracing electrical problems. Morris called his supervisor, put them on speaker. The supervisor called the district attorney. By the time the coffee went cold, they had a plan. "We wire your house," Morris said. Set up a sting. You stage a medical emergency, call your wife, see what she does. If she incriminates herself on tape, if Vance shows up with her, we have probable cause for arrest, warrants to search his office. What if they suspect? Martin asked. Then they lawyer up and we've got nothing. Morris looked at him hard. This is risky, Mr. Keller. If they figure out you're faking, if Diane escalates instead of waiting, I'm dead anyway if we do nothing. Morris nodded slowly. I'll need a cooperating witness, someone who can testify to the poisoning attempt. Without that, even a recorded confession might not stick. Good lawyers could argue it's just a marital dispute, or confusion, or Beth Ramsey, Martin said. The woman who was poisoned, she has the hospital records, toxicology report showing arsenic. Will she testify? I don't know yet. Beth lived in a duplex on the east side of town, near the elementary school. Toys littered the small front yard, a plastic slide, a tricycle lying on its side. Martin knocked on the door around noon. Kyle waited in the truck. Beth answered, her daughter Emma peeking around her legs. Mr. Martin? Can I talk to you a minute? She invited him in. The apartment was small, but clean. Kids' drawings covered the refrigerator. A stack of accounting textbooks sat on the coffee table. Night school, Martin remembered. Emma brought him a crayon drawing, stick figures with a toolbox. That's you, she said, pointing. That's real good, sweetheart. Beth sent the kids to play in the bedroom. She sat across from Martin, hands folded in her lap, nervous. The police came by again, she said, asking about that breakfast, about who gave it to me. I know. Martin pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is for the wages you missed, hospital time, recovery. It's for me personally, not the co-op. Martin, I can't. Yes, you can. You nearly died because of my situation. That's on me. It's not your fault someone tried to poison you. No, but I gave you the food. I put you in danger. He set the envelope on the coffee table. Beth, I need your help. I need you to testify about what happened. Show them your hospital records. Tell them about the breakfast. Her face went pale. Martin, I can't lose my job. If I have to take time off for court, for depositions, the daycare costs alone. The co-op board already voted. You're promoted to manager. Happened last week, before any of this. Your job's safe. And my son Kyle, he's offered to pay for your night classes? The accounting degree you're working on, full tuition. Beth's eyes filled. Why would you do that? Because somebody was nice to me once when I needed it. That's how it's supposed to work. Martin leaned forward. I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. The people who did this might come after you. But right now, you're the only person who can prove the poisoning happened. Your hospital report, your testimony. Without you, they might get away with it. Emma appeared in the doorway, holding another drawing. This one showed two stick figures, one big, one small. Mommy and me, she announced. Beth looked at her daughter, at Martin, at the envelope on the table. If I testify, will you be safe? That's the plan. Promise me. Promise me you'll be okay. And Martin couldn't make that promise. But he said, I'll do everything I can to make sure the truth comes out. Beth picked up the envelope, opened it. Her hands shook when she saw how much was inside, enough to cover 3 months of childcare. Okay, she whispered. I'll testify. That night, Kyle moved into the guest room. To help you out while you're sick, he told Diane at dinner. Martin played weak, pushing food around his plate. That's thoughtful, Diane said. But her eyes were calculating. Kyle's presence complicated things. After she went upstairs, Kyle and Martin sat in the shop. The space heater glowed. Outside, March wind rattled the windows. Spring was trying to come, but winter wasn't done yet. I've been thinking about what you said, Kyle started. That fight we had, when I left. Kyle, you don't have to. Yeah, I do. Kyle stared at his hands. I was 20, arrogant. Thought working with computers made me better than working with tools. Thought your life was small and I deserved bigger. You did deserve bigger. Different doesn't mean better or worse. Just different. But I acted like you were stupid for staying here, for doing honest work, for being, his voice cracked, for being exactly who you are, a good man who keeps his word and takes care of people. Martin's throat went tight. I'm sorry, Pop. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed gone. I'm sorry it took you almost dying to get me to come home. You're here now. That's what matters. Kyle wiped his eyes. I'm not going back to Minneapolis. I already called my boss, gave my notice. I'm moving back here. Found a job in Green Bay. Starts next month. I'm coming home. Martin gripped his son's shoulder. Couldn't find words. 20 years of distance. Closing in one conversation in a cold garage in March. I'm glad. He finally managed. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Kyle said, Thursday. Morris wants to do the sting Thursday morning. His team needs 2 days to wire the house while Diane's at work. Thursday, Martin repeated. 3 days. 3 more days of pretending to swallow pills. 3 more days of Diane watching him decline. 3 more days of playing dead while actually dying. He looked at his hands. They were shaking worse now. Tremors he couldn't control. Kyle saw it too. "We'll get her, Pop, I promise you." Martin nodded. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shop door. Winter wasn't done with them yet, but spring was coming. He just had to live long enough to see it. Thursday morning, gray sky threatening snow. Martin sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone in his hand. The house was wired, cameras hidden in the bedroom smoke detector, the kitchen clock, the living room bookshelf, recording devices in the vents. Detective Morris and 3 officers in an unmarked van 2 blocks away. Kyle stood in the doorway. "You sure about this?" Martin looked at his son, memorized his face, in case this went wrong. "If I don't make the call, she'll just try again, and next time there might not be evidence. No witnesses? Just an old man who died in his sleep." "Pop, I'm sure." Kyle nodded, stepped back. Martin dialed Diane's cell. She was at the grocery store. Thursday morning routine, same as always. She answered on the second ring. "Martin?" He let his voice shake. Wasn't hard, his hands were trembling anyway. "Can't breathe. Chest is pressure. Diane, I need—" "Hold on, honey, I'm coming. Just hold on." The line went dead. Martin lay down on the bedroom floor, positioned himself carefully. The camera would catch everything from this angle. Kyle squeezed his shoulder once, then left. He'd be in the shop, listening through the police radio. Martin closed his eyes, controlled his breathing, waited. 20 minutes. The sound of tires on gravel. 2 cars, Diane's sedan, and another vehicle Martin didn't recognize. She came through the front door calling his name. "Martin, where are you?" Her heels clicked up the stairs. She found him on the bedroom floor, rushed over, knelt beside him. Her hand on his forehead felt cool, professional, like she'd done this before. "Oh God, Martin, hang on, baby." She pulled out her phone, dialed. But Martin could see the screen from where he lay. She wasn't calling 911. She was calling a saved number. "Derek." "He's down," she said when Derek answered. "Finally, you need to get here now." "I'm pulling in." Derek's voice came through the speaker. "Did you give him the morning dose?" "Both pills, double strength. He's barely breathing." "Good. Let me handle the paramedics when they get here. I know what to say." Footsteps on the stairs. Derek Vance walked into Martin's bedroom like he owned it. Expensive suit, fake tan. That smile Martin remembered from the church fundraiser. "Finally," Derek said. He stood over Martin's body. The tough old bastard. Thought he'd never go down. Diane stood, and something changed in her posture. The worried wife act dropped. She leaned into Derek, and he kissed her. Right there, 3 feet from Martin's supposedly dying body. "Jamaica in 2 weeks, baby?" Diane asked. "First class, you earned it." "God, I thought he'd figure it out. When that secretary got sick." "Collateral damage," Derek said. Should have minded her own business. Martin lay there, recording it all, feeling cold rage settle in his chest. Beth nearly died, and they called it collateral damage. Sirens outside. The ambulance. Actually undercover investigators, but Diane and Derek didn't know that. "Showtime," Derek muttered. "Remember, you're devastated. Shocked. You had no idea he was this sick." Diane's face transformed. Tears appeared. Her voice went high and broken. "Oh God, please hurry." "My husband—" The EMTs came up the stairs. Morris's people, wearing proper uniforms. They checked Martin's vitals, asked questions. Diane performed beautifully. Derek played the concerned family friend. One EMT spoke into his radio. "Detective, you better get in here." Morris appeared in the doorway, badge out. Behind him, 3 uniformed officers. "Mrs. Keller, Mr. Vance, I need you to stay where you are." Diane's face went confused. Perfectly acted. "What? Why? My husband needs—" "Your husband is fine." Morris nodded at Martin. "Mr. Keller, you can get up now." Martin opened his eyes, sat up. The look on Diane's face was worth every moment of fear he'd lived through the past 3 weeks. You were faking?" Her voice came out strangled. "We've been recording everything," Morris said. "Kitchen conversation about dosages. Text messages we found on both your phones. And we've got a search warrant for Mr. Vance's office." Derek bolted. Made it to the stairs, before 2 officers grabbed him. They took him down hard, cuffed him on the landing. He started talking immediately, desperate. "It was her idea. She came to me. I just wrote the policies. She's the one who poisoned him." "Shut up," Diane hissed. Then, turning to Morris, switching back to the wounded wife act, "He's confused. He's been having memory problems. I think he's making this up because he's scared of—" "We have your texts," Morris said. "We have the antifreeze bottles you hid in the garage, the rat poison in your vanity. We have your handwriting on the dosage schedule. And we have this. He held up a recording device. Everything you just said, on tape. Diane's performance cracked. She looked at Martin, standing there with Kyle's hand on his shoulder, alive and aware. You were always too careful, she said, voice gone cold. All pretense gone. Too goddamn careful. I should have just shot you. Diane Keller, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud. The Miranda rights faded into background noise as officers led her away. Through the bedroom window, Martin saw neighbors gathering on lawns, Mrs. Kowalski on her porch, phone to her ear, Pastor Jim's car pulling up, the whole street watching as Diane was put in a patrol car. Beth's car arrived last. She got out, hospital file in hand, walked through the crowd, stood in front of Diane's window. That breakfast was meant for him, she said quietly. Diane stared at her. At Beth, alive and testifying, the last piece falling into place, the patrol car pulled away. Martin stood in his doorway, Kyle beside him, watching it go. Pop? Kyle's voice was soft. You okay? Martin didn't answer right away, didn't know if he was. 3 days later, Martin and Kyle sat in Detective Morris's office, sorting through the wreckage of lies. Derek Vance rolled on your wife within an hour of arrest, Morris said, spreading files across his desk. Gave us everything. Text messages, bank records, the whole scheme. Martin stared at the documents, saw his wife's handwriting on dosage schedules, saw Derek's notes about accelerating the timeline, saw his own name listed as Target 6, final phase. How many? Martin asked. How many others? 6 total. 2 are already dead. Ruled natural causes at the time, but we're reopening both cases. One's in a nursing home coma, might not make it. 3 others, including you, we got to them in time. Morris pulled up photos. James Kowalski, 73. Wife thought he had a stroke. Turns out Diane's friend from church was slowly poisoning him too. Roger Chen, 69, in the hospital now, recovering. And Martin Liu, 71, thought he was just getting old. All of them isolated. All of them with forged policies through Vance's agency. Jesus, Kyle breathed. Derek was sophisticated about it. Different insurance companies, spread across 3 counties, small enough payouts that nobody looked twice. He'd been doing this for at least 3 years. We're still uncovering victims. And Diane. Martin's voice came out rough. Morris hesitated. She claims Derek lied to her. Says she thought all the insurance policies were legitimate, that you'd sign them. Says Derek told her it was legal, that they were just planning a new life together after you died of natural causes. Natural causes she was helping along with antifreeze. Yeah. Her lawyers trying to paint her as a victim too, manipulated by Derek, didn't understand the full scope of the fraud. DA's not buying it, but Morris pulled out another document. They've offered her a plea deal. Testify against Derek, give up every detail of the operation, and she gets 12 years instead of life. Martin felt something twist in his chest. 12 years. Diane would be 77 when she got out, still have life left, while he'd spent 3 weeks thinking every meal might be his last. She taking it? Her lawyer says yes. Allocution hearing is scheduled for next week. You're allowed to give a victim impact statement if you want. Martin didn't know if he wanted that. Didn't know if he could stand in a courtroom and look at her and find words for what she'd done. Sunday morning, Martin went to church. First time since the arrest. Kyle offered to come with him, but Martin needed to do this alone. He walked into the sanctuary, and the conversation stopped. Everyone turned. Pastor Jim stood from the front pew, face stricken. Martin, I owe you, his voice broke. I owe you an apology, a profound apology. I doubted you when I should have believed. I let my assumptions about age and confusion cloud my judgment, and I failed you. The congregation was silent, watching. I'm sorry, Pastor Jim said. Deeply, truly sorry. Martin looked at him, at this man who'd known him for 15 years, who'd sided with Diane because her performance was better than Martin's truth. Apology accepted. Relief flooded Pastor Jim's face. Others approached after that. Mrs. Henderson, with tears in her eyes in a casserole dish, mumbling apologies. Church members, who'd avoided him in the parking lot, now wanted to shake his hand, tell him they'd always thought something was off about Diane, rewrite their memories to make themselves less complicit. Martin accepted it all with quiet grace, told them it was fine, told them he understood, but driving home afterward, he felt hollowed out. They'd believed Diane's lies so easily, had been so ready to think him senile, confused, a problem to be managed rather than a person to be believed. The community had failed him, and yes, they were sorry now, but sorry didn't erase those weeks of isolation when he'd needed them most. Monday afternoon, Beth stopped by the house. She'd brought her kids. Emma and Josh ran straight to Martin's shop, fascinated by the tools. Beth carried a folder. The co-op's thriving, she said. We got 3 new contracts this month. And she pulled out papers. I passed my accounting midterm. 94%. That's real good, Beth. Kyle helped me study. He's good at explaining things. She paused. Mr. Martin, I heard about the allocution hearing. Are you going? Don't know yet. I don't think I can go. I know I should, but seeing her again. Beth wrapped her arms around herself. I keep thinking about my kids. What if I died? What if they'd grown up without a mom because I ate someone else's poisoned breakfast? Emma appeared in the doorway. Mr. Martin, what's this? She held up an old voltage meter. That measures electricity. Makes sure wires are safe. Can you teach me? Martin looked at this 6-year-old girl, all curiosity and trust, and felt something loosen in his chest. This is what mattered. Not courtrooms, or victim statements, or Diane's excuses. This kid asking questions about voltage meters? Beth passing her accounting exam. Life continuing. Sure, sweetheart. I can teach you. Tuesday evening, Diane's lawyer called. Martin almost didn't answer. But Kyle was there, and he nodded, so Martin picked up. Keller, I'm Susan Wright, representing your wife. I know this is inappropriate, but she asked me to tell you. The lawyer's voice was carefully neutral. She wants you to know she's sorry, that she loved you once a long time ago, that Derek promised her the policies were legal, and she didn't know about the forgeries. She knows you won't forgive her, but she wanted you to understand she didn't comprehend what she'd become. Martin held the phone, saying nothing. She also wanted you to know. The lawyer paused. She's glad you survived. She says if she could take it back, she would. Martin thought about Diane, standing in his bedroom, kissing Derek 3 feet from his supposedly dying body. Thought about her saying collateral damage, about Beth. Thought about her laughing on that phone call. The old fool won't know what hit him. Tell her I got the message, Martin said, then hung up. Kyle watched him from across the kitchen. You okay? No, but I will be. Martin looked around the kitchen. At the table, where they'd eaten 1,000 meals. At the coffee maker Diane used every morning. At the space where her things used to be, cleared out now by court order, everything packed into boxes for storage. I'm keeping the house, he said. Court awarded it to me. My name on the deed, my pension paid the mortgage. She gets nothing. Good. But I don't know if I can sleep here anymore. Too many ghosts. Kyle pulled out his laptop. So we make it different. New paint, new furniture, make it yours, not hers. Or, he turned the screen. There's a house for sale 3 blocks from my new place in Green Bay. 2-bedroom, small yard. You could start completely fresh. Martin looked at the listing. At the little ranch house with blue shutters and a detached garage. Away from this town where everyone had doubted him. Away from the church where Diane had performed her devotion. Away from the bedroom where she'd brought him poisoned milk. Let me think about it. Friday morning, the allocution hearing. Martin got dressed, put on his good shirt, the one he wore for union meetings. Kyle came to pick him up. They drove to the courthouse, parked. Martin sat in the passenger seat, staring at the building. You don't have to go in, Kyle said. You don't owe her anything. Martin watched people walk up the courthouse steps. Lawyers with briefcases, families holding hands. The machinery of justice, grinding forward whether he participated or not. I need to see her one more time, he said. Need to know I can look at her and feel nothing. They got out of the truck, walked to the entrance. Martin saw the side door where they brought prisoners in, saw the sheriff's van parked there. Then he saw her, Diane, in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, thinner than he remembered. Hair gray at the roots where she couldn't dye it anymore. She looked old. Looked like what she was, a 65-year-old woman who'd tried to murder her husband for money. Martin stood there, 30 feet away, watching her be led inside. And felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, not even satisfaction. Just nothing. She was a stranger. Had been for years, maybe. He just hadn't seen it. He turned around, walked back to the truck. Kyle followed. Pop? I don't need to hear her excuses. I already know everything I need to know. Martin opened the passenger door. Take me home. I got work to do. They drove back in comfortable silence. Spring was finally coming. He could see it in the budding trees, the greening grass, the robins on the lawn. Winter was over. He'd survived. 2 months later, early May. The lilacs were blooming outside the kitchen window, their scent drifting through the screen door Martin had finally fixed. He stood at the stove making scrambled eggs and bacon. Simple, honest food. No cinnamon, no special recipes, just breakfast. Kyle's truck pulled into the driveway at 8, same as every Saturday morning. New tradition, 6 weeks running now. Martin heard his son's footsteps on the porch, the door opening. Morning, Pop. Coffee's ready. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table, but Martin had refinished it last month. Sanded away the old varnish, applied new stain. Made it his. The radio played low from the counter. Not AM farm reports anymore. Kyle had switched it to a classic country station. Waylon Jennings singing about good-hearted women. Job starts Monday, Kyle said, forking eggs. IT manager for the hospital system in Green Bay. Good benefits. Close enough I can still come by on weekends. You nervous? Little bit. Been a long time since I was new anywhere. Kyle smiled. Found an apartment downtown. Second floor, overlooks Main Street. Moving truck comes Thursday. You need help? Sal's bringing his brother's truck. We got it covered. Kyle poured more coffee. What about you? Community college called yet about that teaching thing? Martin nodded. Start in September. Basic electrical for vocational students. 2 classes a week. They're paying me, but I told them I'd do it for free. Feels good. Passing it on. You're still going to volunteer at the co-op? Tuesdays and Thursdays. Beth's got it running smooth, but she likes having me around for the complicated jobs. Plus, Martin's mouth quirked. Her kids come by after school sometimes. Emma's decided she wants to learn about circuits. 6 years old, and already asking about Ohm's law. Smart kid. Reminds me of you at that age, always taking things apart to see how they worked. Kyle looked down at his plate. I wasted a lot of years being angry at you for wanting me to learn the trades. Thought it meant you didn't believe in me. I just wanted you to have options. Thought if you learned electrical, you'd always have work, always be able to take care of yourself. But you found your own way. Different path. Still good. Took me 20 years to figure out different doesn't mean wrong. They ate in comfortable silence. Through the window, Martin could see Mrs. Kowalski watering her flowers across the street. Her husband was home now from the nursing home, recovered enough to sit on the porch anyway. The poison hadn't killed him, but it had taken something. He'd never be quite the same. 2 blocks over, the Chen family was having a garage sale. Roger Chen had recovered fully, but his wife was selling half their possessions. Couldn't stand to have anything in the house. That reminded her of how close she'd come to losing him. The poisonings had left marks on the whole town, invisible scars. But people were healing, slowly. Around 10, Beth's car pulled up. Emma and Josh exploded out of the back seat, running for the shop. Beth followed, carrying a covered dish and a wrapped package. Morning, Mr. Martin. Kyle. She set the dish on the counter. Banana bread. Made too much. Thought you'd want some. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. She handed Martin the package. This is from the co-op. Everyone chipped in. Martin unwrapped it. The Zenith radio from the church raffle, the one he'd been restoring in February. The morning everything changed. It gleamed now, fully restored. Someone had finished the work. Sal completed it, Beth said. Said you'd taught him everything he needed to know, and it was time he returned the favor. Martin turned it over in his hands. The wood cabinet smooth and oiled, the dial brass bright. He plugged it in, turned it on. After a moment, it crackled to life. Music filled the kitchen, some old standard, strings and piano. It works perfect, he said quietly. He wanted you to have it, said you'd started something, might as well see it finished. Emma appeared in the doorway, Josh behind her. Can we go see the tools? Sure, sweetheart. Just don't touch the table saw. The kids ran off. Beth poured herself coffee, leaned against the counter. I passed my accounting final, 96%, graduate in December. That's real good, Beth. I couldn't have done it without, she gestured around, all this. You paying for the classes? Kyle helping me study, having a job I don't have to worry about losing every time my kid gets sick. Her eyes went damp. You saved my life twice, Mr. Martin. Once accidentally, once on purpose. You saved mine. That testimony. I almost didn't do it. Almost let fear keep me quiet. She wiped her eyes. My daughter asked me something the other day. Asked why you were so nice to me when you didn't have to be? What did you tell her? I told her some people are just good. That kindness isn't about what you get back. It's about what kind of person you want to be. And Kyle cleared his throat. Speaking of which, Pop, you got mail from the union yesterday. I left it on your desk. Martin retrieved it from the shop. Official letterhead. He opened it standing in the kitchen, Beth and Kyle watching. The union had voted to create a scholarship in his name, the Martin Keller Apprenticeship Fund, for kids from tough backgrounds, kids like Sal, like the ones Martin had mentored over 40 years, kids who deserved a chance. They want me to help select the recipients, Martin said. Interview applicants. Make sure the money goes to kids who will actually use it. You going to do it? Kyle asked. Yeah, I think I will. Emma ran back in, holding a piece of paper. Mr. Martin, I drew you something. He looked at the crayon drawing, 2 stick figures at a workbench, tools scattered around. That's us learning about circuits. It's real good, sweetheart. He taped it to the refrigerator, next to the banana bread recipe and Kyle's new address. Beth called her kids. We should go. Let you two have your morning. You can stay, Martin said. I know. But Saturdays are your time with your son. That matters. She corralled Emma and Josh toward the door, then paused. Oh, there was a reporter who called the co-op. Wanted to interview you about the poisoning case, the serial fraud, all of it. I told them you weren't interested? Good, I'm not. That's what I figured. You're not the kind of man who needs everyone to know what he survived. You just survive it and move on. When after they left, Martin and Kyle cleaned up the breakfast dishes. The radio played. The lilac scent drifted through the window. Normal sounds, normal morning. Diane's sentencing was yesterday, Kyle said quietly. Morris called. 12 years. Derek got life without parole. The other families testified, the ones whose husbands died. They wanted to make sure he never got out. Martin dried a plate, set it in the cupboard. 12 years. She'll be 77? You okay with that? I don't know if okay's the right word. It's done anyway. She's gone. Derek's gone. That part of my life is over. You ever think about, Kyle hesitated, about dating again, starting over with someone new? Martin laughed, short and dry. I'm 68 years old and my last wife tried to kill me. I think I'm done with romance. Fair enough. And they moved to the shop after dishes were done. Martin had a new project on his bench, a jewelry box for Emma. Unsolicited gift, just because she'd asked such good questions about circuits. Kyle was building a bookshelf, learning as he went, Martin coaching him through the measurements. Keep your angle consistent, Martin said. Feel the grain, work with it, not against it. Kyle adjusted his grip on the plane. The blade slid smooth over the wood, curling off thin shavings. Like that? Just like that. They worked in easy silence. Sunlight slanted through the shop window, catching sawdust in the air like snow. The radio played from the bench. Outside, a cardinal called. Spring sounds, living sounds. Martin paused, watching his son's hands mimicking his own movements. The same left slant angle. The same steady pressure. The same patience he'd tried to teach 20 years ago, but Kyle hadn't been ready to learn yet. Now he was. You're getting it, Martin said. Kyle looked up, smiled. Had a good teacher. Martin felt something settle in his chest. Not happiness exactly. Too much had been lost for simple happiness. But peace. The quiet kind that came from surviving something terrible and finding yourself still standing, still able to make things, still able to teach your son about wood grain and patience and the value of steady hands. Pop? Kyle's voice pulled him back. You good? Martin nodded, set his hand on his son's shoulder for just a moment. Yes, son, I'm good. They returned to work. The afternoon stretched ahead, plain on wood, rhythmic and meditative. The shop door opened to May warmth. Lilacs blooming, radio playing, life continuing. Martin Keller, 68 years old, survivor of betrayal and poison, teacher of circuits and dignity, stood at his workbench and made something new. Not restoration this time, not fixing what was broken. Something new entirely. Some things you can fix, some things you can't. Martin learned that over 42 years as an electrician. Learned it again these past few months in harder ways. You can rewire a house, trace every circuit, make sure the current flows clean and true, but you can't rewire a person's heart. Can't trace the moment when love turns to greed, when partnership calcifies into betrayal. Diane was gone. 12 years in prison, and Martin would be 80 by the time she got out. If he lived that long. If she lived that long. The math didn't matter much anymore. She'd stopped being his wife long before the police took her away, maybe 2 years ago, when Derek first smiled at her across a church fundraiser table, maybe longer. Some betrayals happen slow, the way a house settles on its foundation. You don't notice until the doors won't close right and the floors aren't level. He'd been a fool. That was the truth he had to live with. Not stupid, there was a difference. A fool trusted when he should have questioned. A fool mistook loneliness for love. But being a fool didn't mean he deserved what happened. Didn't mean he'd earned the poison in his milk, or the forged signatures, or the plot to murder him for insurance money. He'd survived. That counted for something. More than that, he'd kept his dignity. Hadn't become bitter. Hadn't let Diane's betrayal turn him into someone who couldn't trust anyone, couldn't believe in basic human decency. That would have been letting her win even from prison. Kyle was home. That mattered most. 20 years of estrangement healed in a crisis, and now his son was 3 blocks away, close enough for Saturday breakfast, close enough that Martin could teach him about wood grain and patience and all the things they'd missed out on when pride and anger stood between them. Beth and her kids, the scholarship in his name, Sal's loyalty, the community's awkward apologies that Martin accepted because holding grudges took energy he didn't have anymore. These were the things worth holding on to. Late afternoon now, the sun warmed through the shop window. Martin stood at his workbench, hand plane sliding smooth over maple. Emma's jewelry box taking shape. Dovetail joints, brass hinges, felt lining for the bottom. Good work. Honest work. The kind that lasted. Kyle worked beside him, building that bookshelf, asking questions about joinery and finish, father and son. 2 generations, one a workshop. The radio played low. Willie Nelson now singing about Always on My Mind. Martin paused, looked around his shop. 40 years of tools on these walls, some inherited from his father. Some he'd passed to Kyle. History in every hammer, every saw, every voltage meter on the shelf. He thought about Margaret, his first wife, gone 20 years now, wondered what she'd think of all this. She'd probably tell him he was lucky to be alive and foolish for staying in that house as long as he did. She'd be right on both counts. But she'd also tell him to keep working, keep teaching, keep living honest. That's all a man could do, really. Keep your hands steady, do the work in front of you, trust carefully, but don't stop trusting entirely. Forgive when you can, protect what matters. Pass on what you've learned. Some things you can fix, some things you can't, but you keep your hands steady anyway. Martin picked up the plane again. The blade bit into wood, peeling off a thin, perfect shaving. The scent of fresh-cut maple filled the shop. Outside, the cardinal called again. Lilacs bloomed. May warmth settled over everything like a blessing. Kyle glanced at him. "That's looking good, Pop." "Getting there," Martin said. And it was. Slow work. Patient work. But it was getting there. He was getting there. That was enough.